A very good morning to you all, wherever you are. Welcome to Sunrise Daily. Today, I'm Chamberlain. So,
good morning, I'm Maupe Ogun Yusuf, and welcome to the program.
It's 4 days to Christmas. Good morning and welcome to Sunrise Daily on Channels Television. I am Bukola Samuel Wemimo.
Well, I guess there's no need for me to tell you the date anymore, right? 21st December, Wednesday morning. Welcome. I'm Ayo Makide.
Why don't you say it's 25th of December? Let's all get it over with once and for all. What's all this build up and countdown? Well, yes, you know, it's of course, it's a very interesting season, and we're all expected to be as merry, as happy as we can, no matter what. You know, I mean, without hope, what is there then? Why is life there if you don't have any such hope? But then yesterday we expected some activity in the House of Reps. I don't know how many people were keeping tabs on that one. The CBN governor was supposed to appear before them and speak about this cashless policy. But that didn't happen, so he's expected to be there on Thursday. Well, if he doesn't make it back to the country, they say, look, whoever else is, perhaps any of the deputy governors, they believe they will be well versed in this cashless policy so that they can explain to the members what is the rationale behind all of these policies. So the CBN governor is not back from the States. He said he's got an official assignment over there, so he's not there as of yet. But I do know the papers are somewhat talking about availability or otherwise of this new Naira note. It's supposed to be in circulation. Okay, well, it is in circulation, isn't it? But to what level is it? So I think that is where lots of people are just wondering. So is it an anticlimax of sorts or what? I don't know if it's just in the section, but those are just some of the things that we're keeping tabs on. Of course, you'll expect to see some of those currency on the 25th, which Ayo and Buki have been gladly counting down to. So I'm looking forward to that day, the way they're going
Why
about this
are you, saying and hoping that you'll see some of the currency?
They're getting my hopes up.
Why is it the 25th? Why can't you see it before the 25th?
Okay.
What is going to be happening in particular on the 25th that you think you should see cash? If you say you're going to see jollof rice, perhaps.
I like the notes in particular.
Oh, well. I know that members of the House of Reps have they've been somewhat annoyed at the fact that the CBN governor didn't show up, and they're insistent on his showing up. But I wonder, eventually, now that they have said that somebody else can come and represent him, I wonder why they didn't give that option in the first instance. But nonetheless, it is within their right to question what this is supposed to achieve, even though some people might say it's right there within the name, cashless. It's for us to go into a cashless economy. That is the idea behind it. But by all means, we will certainly encourage the CBN to show up, because we too are looking forward to that engagement. I also know that I think the Senate or so was seeking to do, they have had their own session, and instead of them to make it public, they decided to do it, privately. There's a word they use for that now, when they shut the doors. Executive session. Yeah, they decided to have an executive session. And the way that executive session went left correspondents raising eyebrows as to why it had to be in an executive session. After all, they're doing this on behalf of Nigerians, and Nigerians ought to know just what this is about. A lot of Nigerians were hoping to follow that discussion. Anyways, the House of Reps has slated its own for Thursday. It is hoped that we will be able to follow the discussions, the questions which will be posed to the top echelon of the Central Bank of Nigeria, and perhaps get a deeper understanding of just how this is supposed to go and what exactly it's supposed to achieve. As for the notes not being in total circulation, Chamberlain, don't forget that they're still supposed to be circulating together with the old notes. So if you don't get the new notes, the old notes are still very valid. I imagine that, when you go to the banks, for whatever reason, if you have to withdraw huge sums of money, the banks might mix the old notes with the new notes for you. Yes.
Not many people who will not be happy.
Oh, yes, but it's what it is. I mean, even the cashless policy or the new wave of cashless is not supposed to kick in until the 9th of January, when all of this celebrations would have begun. So no need to tell us that, or to tell your nieces and nephews whom you're supposed to see somewhere that, sorry, it's cashless we're doing now. I think that even sometimes puts you in more trouble, because when you say it's cashless, it doesn't stop you from still giving the person money. You now begin to say, oh, I can't give 5,000 naira. That's a little too small. Maybe I should make it 10. You know, and that puts you in more trouble. I don't know. That's my own experience. Let us see how this eventually goes. I'm sure a lot of Nigeria enthusiastic. They're already embracing this cashless policy anyway. I think that, you know, a lot of people, the people who have problems, they really have genuine concerns, because in some instances, I even have been a victim where you go to do a transaction in a shop and you are told to wait until they see their alert. They're not going to let you go until the transaction reflects. And if you're not able to, if for whatever reason the network is faulty on that particular day, you might find that you might not be able to carry out the transaction. It's time wasted. So when these limits are put in place, does it take into cognizance, you know, people, places where the network might not be so good, or circumstances where, for whatever reason, the network is down? You know, does it take into cognizance some of the peculiar scenarios that Nigerians have come face to face with in trying to even implement the cashless that we're already in? Because a lot of people find it convenient. I mean, Kayode was saying the other day that he barely had 200 naira on him. He only had 200 naira on him. If you search me now and turn me upside down, I doubt that you'll see any cash from me. And that's how we've been living for a while. I imagine that even churches now, when they want to collect their offering, they put up an account number where you can easily transfer money to. So people are already beginning to imbibe this. But the circumstances where things are a bit tricky, you know, has the CBN been able to take those circumstances into cognizance and make provisions for them? Or is this meant to punish the Nigerian people? I imagine that that's not what the situation is about. But let us see how the discussions eventually go on Thursday. So over now to you, Bukola and Ayo. I don't know what you'll be telling, whether you'll be seeing your relatives in this season, and whether you'll be shaking body for them. And if you shake body, will you be doing it cashlessly, or will you be transferring money? How is it going to happen?
Well, first of all, Markwe, come on. All of the money is somewhere in your bank account or in that very expensive bag in the studio.
Oh, wow.
It doesn't have to be on you right now. But those questions that you raise, you know, are those that we expect the CBN governor and his team to be answering at the House of Representatives, you know, and maybe at the Senate if he's so invited. But then again, I'm yet to be convinced that, you know, this policy will not discourage the unbanked. I referred to our immediate past discussion on the redesign of the new Naira notes, where our guest, technology expert, was trying hard to convince us, you know, that it would not discourage the unbanked, but the banked, it will encourage the banked, that's those, you know, who have bank accounts, to go cashless, you know, and then the taxes for, you know, all of these transactions will be placed, or according to his views, have been placed on the wealthy. Well, maybe that may be true to an extent, you know, but I also recall Chamberlain saying that all of these taxes, you know, go to the banks, because the banks are always declaring profit, you know, where Nigerians are lamenting the hardship, you know, as a result of the economic woes. The banks are always declaring profit. So these are some of the things that we should look at. And beyond the personal concerns of members of the House of Representatives and the National Assembly in its entirety, the altruism, you know, from this redesign of the Naira notes and the new limits on cash withdrawals and deposits should be in the overall interest of the economy, not necessarily, you know, because of personal concerns of members of the House of Representatives. And for good reason, critical questions that should be asked of the CBN governor and his team: how will this improve, you know, on the value of the Naira? Where are the factors? have not been necessarily put in place. How is it going to improve, those security concerns that many have expressed optimism that the new Naira redesign would address? So these critical questions should be asked. And also not forgetting that the CBN governor said that the policy is staying, but that the limits may be reviewed. So these conversations we should have. As per Christmas, of course, I think I'm going to be doing a lot of transfers and transactions. I hope that they go through. I share your concerns too, Maokwe. Ayo.
Well, for one, Chamberlain, Christmas Day is Sunday, so there's no sunrise daily on that day. You'll only be able to give us a feedback on that on the second day. But, I think the objective of this whole cashless policy thing is for us all to transit from physical cash to, electronic means of transactions. I mean, some of us are definitely annoyed and displeased with the way some people use the currencies all over the place at parties and stuff like that. We're hearing people now, the currency hawkers, they call them, and party goers, mopping up the little that is available. How does that happen? Conversations with the bankers, maybe? I don't know. Something for us to give attention to. Another one that is very critical, which we all are aware of, is the counterfeiting that is already going round. I think it is important for the CBN at this point to come out and let people know the features of the new currencies. There are some Nigerians making, that effort to educate Nigerians not to fall prey to those who will come to them with so-called new Naira notes that are just colored, not colored by the CBN. But it's important for people to know that the new notes have certain safety features, and the CBN needs to come out, especially when people haven't seen them by their own hands in the banks, come out to educate people that these are the features you must look out for in the new notes so that you don't fall prey to these things. These things are very, very important, especially because a lot of that is going to be happening now. Chamberlain.
All right, we hear you. Even though it's 25th, Christmas Day, Sunday, it's Boxing Day. And don't tell me it's going to be a cashless Boxing Day. Okay, well, let me not get ahead of myself. We'll take a look at the dailies for you, and we'll start with Vanguard newspaper this morning. It's got to do with part of what we're speaking about here this morning. FG bans cash withdrawals from public accounts. Okay. I know some of the immediate questions are, public accounts, does it mean? Okay, look. Some of the writers perhaps may shed some light. It says public officers to open domiciliary accounts in foreign and local currencies. And you're wondering, okay, what has that got to do with anything? Well, that's
there is no regulation there, Chamberlain. I think that's another area that we're not paying attention to.
Well, they're trying to evade this.
Yes, I mean, there's no regulation, or maybe there is some, but it is still loose. It's rather loose and lax, and people find ways around it. So if Nigerian Naira is too bulky, simply convert it to some foreign currency and then change at will.
We look at the other right, Section 1 of Money Laundering Prohibition Act activated. NFIU developing advisory to SGF, state governors, LGs. Remember that much talked about financial autonomy for local governments. It's a thing now. Policy strengthens latest CBN cash withdrawal limit policy. Okay. Governors, LGs to organize training for market men, women to use of ATM, POS services. That's ascribed to the NFIU. Denies plan to block FG accounts January 1, 2023. Oh boy. And then look at this, above this lead story. Banks reduce new Naira notes per cash withdrawal. So what they're talking about now is that, if you go to withdraw, they reduce it by about 50%. So you get some of the new notes, and then 50% of the old notes, 50% on the new notes, depending on how much you're withdrawing. And that, it says, is raising questions, agitation, anxiety over this January 31st deadline when the old notes are supposed to cease existence or be in circulation. So who knows where all of this is headed, but that's what they're reporting this morning. And then add to that, bullion van politicians responsible for CBN governor's travails. This is ascribed to Atiku Okowa campaign. So you'll not get the last of that, would you? Well, that is Vanguard this morning.
Or take a look at what The Guardian has for you on the front page. New Naira notes yet to circulate amid fear of counterfeiting.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's the lead story. And I think it's one that the CBN needs to take seriously. They might need to take stock of what is currently happening, how much have they released to the banks, you know, what areas have them. Is there a way they can actually monitor circulation of the notes? It'll be interesting to see, but this headline should be taken seriously. New Naira notes yet to circulate amid fear of counterfeiting. Redesign withdrawal limit will wreck North, Wamako claims. So there are places where they think that this will have a greater impact. And I think that even the World Bank also raised some concerns yesterday or so in a report about this redesign and the effect it could have on the economy.
Yeah, they're talking about the duration of time, the time limit.
The time limit,
within
yeah.
which it ceases to be in existence, and it puts pressure on several other transactions. And
Indeed,
like
yeah. Oh, well, look at this. Ibadan motorcyclists reject new notes.
Oh, sorry. I was just thinking aloud. I thought it was your turn. Don't worry. No, remember, he asked a question the last time.
I don't know how come I'm the one reading the paper and I was getting stray bullets in Lagos. But, hey, it is what it is. Ibadan motorcyclists reject new notes. Who can blame them if they're not sure what it's supposed to look like? And, you know, there have been all manner of stories. Look at this story about counterfeiting. Oh, well, please give me the one I know. I won't take chances. Look at this one as well. I think they're also doing some comparison what is happening in the UK. Bank of England unveils King Charles III banknotes. Won't phase out old notes, but reprinting will be discontinued. You'll find details on page 6 of the paper. And just in case you're wondering what that queue is about, no, it's not for the ATM, even though this kind of queue have also been reported at some ATMs. But this one is at the FCT INEC headquarters as voters try to collect their PVCs. So they're certainly very serious about collecting their PVCs. And talking about the politics in the air, this major one came yesterday. Okukwe steps down as campaign DG. I'm not demoralized, Peter Obi affirms. To page 6, read for you. That is there. And on top of the nameplate, they have a number of other stories. Federal government to stop excess cash withdrawal from public accounts, says NFIU. So tightening on every corner. Ondo Council workers threatened to boycott 2023 elections over autonomy. See that ACF mourns elder statesman Malami. It's a page 28 read. And this particular one from Mr. Femi Falana, halt official sabotage of 2023 general elections, says Falana. Just in case you're wondering what it is about, it's not unrelated with the arson we've witnessed in many INEC offices and the fact that we are yet to see any prosecution of the suspects, some of the suspects who have been arrested in the rare cases that they have been arrested by the police. So something to ruminate upon on page 25 of The Guardian this morning. Let's leave it there for the paper.
And flip to this Nigeria, Chamberlain, that those Ibadan motorcyclists need some reprimanding. I'm sure you'll agree with me. But this Nigeria chooses to focus on politics this morning. And it's an interesting caption, I dare say. Dear Peter, I'm stepping aside. Okukwe, Obi's campaign DG, resigns after money laundering conviction. And this is another rider that gives a bit more insight. It's a systematic attack on us. Yunusa, that's the spokesperson of the Obidati PCC. Of course, that is sure to elicit more reactions in the coming days. And it appears a first of its kind. Ayo, it's not every day you find Nigerian politicians resigning. Well, this is an exception.
Well, there is
Sufficient ground.
It's within his right
yeah,
whether
absolutely.
to do that or not. But then I think it's only the moral thing to do, given all that has been happening, which could stain the efforts of the Labour Party. Perhaps, you know, it must have been something, hopefully something that they have, you know, spoken about. But what happens after now with Chief Deyokupe and whatever else, I guess we just have to wait to see.
Well, it may not necessarily close the chapter for the Labour Party, maybe for the DG who has now resigned. But we're bound to hear more in the coming days, particularly with spokespersons of the party on the program. Take a look at this one beneath, at the bottom strip of this Nigeria. Again, reps give CBN governor 2 days to appear over withdrawal limit. That's a page 12 read, as FG to stop cash withdrawal from all public accounts. We've spoken about that earlier. Let's go above the nameplates now to find this one. NDLEA seizes 450 billion naira worth of drugs, arrests 23,907 suspects in 22 months. That's a recap of the efforts of the agency to mop up illicit drugs and substances, and we've had quite a lot of talk on that in the last few months on the program. Just before we exit this Nigeria, take a look at this one beneath, just beside the big story. Senate confirms Honor Chair's appointment, 12 others for NDDC board. Let's leave it there now for this Nigeria.
Flip to this, the Daily Times this morning. It is talking about money, certainly, and what you have on the front page. $547 million generated from 5G auction. 5G auction. What does that mean? Certainly technology. Applauds ICT sector for driving growth. Is this anyway connected to all of our efforts going digital across board? The details you'll find on the front page continues on the inside page. Inside pages. Still talking money, look under the picture. Senate begins probe of Accountant General over 978 billion naira sovereign wealth fund. Just to be clear, which one is this? Is this the Accountant General, the Office of the Accountant General as of today, or the Accountant General that is being probed or having questions to answer? Well, the details you'll find on the inside pages. This one looks pretty new, but so it's probably just a question around all of that. And look at the riders to pass 2023 budget on Thursday. Well, that's the story you have right there. Right above the nameplate, House of Reps to probe loss of $2.4 billion, illegal sale of 48 million barrels of crude oil. Wait a minute. We're just talking dollars and billions, and that's the Daily Times newspaper today.
New Telegraph next. We need 100,000 vehicles, 4,200 boats for 2023 polls. Ascribed to INEC. I know you may be wondering, wait. What about the one you bought the last time? Are we going to calm down? I don't think they say they want to buy them. So that could be one of the things that will come to mind when you see this. That's what we always tell you, it's just to get you to read the story and understand it and put it in proper context. Well, look at the riders if it will help. To track workers' movements to forestall hijack. And then campaigns. Denying opposition access to public places will breed violence, says ex-Buhari aide. So for those states who are preventing opposition parties from campaigning or disrupting campaigns in any manner whatsoever. So for this INEC one, they signed an agreement with NURTW, Maritime Workers Union, So that's why the boats and the vehicles, they expect those unions to provide all of those. So if you're worried about hijack and things like that, well, they say they're going to be tracked. So, you know, but read it and put it in proper context so you don't get it twisted.
Neutrality, I think.
Okay, so we'll expect that. Number one is you must get to the venue in time, because if you delay, that is a tactical, technical way to rig elections. When they give you some sort of reasons not to go to a certain area to deliver those materials, that's technical rigging. Yes, let's come up with that word now. That's technical rigging. You must be there. That's systematic. Look, there are several ways they rig elections. Several ways. And we'll talk about them as we progress. So you just need to watch this space time and again. You can't afford to miss it because you could drop when you least expect. So, and then you see, I look forward to returning to Daura in 5 months. Buhari.
He too is doing a countdown.
Well, I am looking forward to Christmas. The president is counting down to Daura. Oh dear, what an irony, isn't it? And then you see Yuletide. Airline operators raised the alarm over flight disruptions. It's got something to do with scarcity of aviation fuel, so that people will note.
Not at this time.
I know.
Not at this time.
In spite of the fares, hiking fares. And you just wonder. And then NDDC board. Senate disregards protests, confirms Onoche 12 members. So she and others are going to have a very Merry Christmas, I might add. So, and then you see, asks Buhari to forward forensic audit for NAS scrutiny. National Assembly to pass 2023 budget tomorrow. Emefiele to appear before reps over cash withdrawal limit. That's going to be on Thursday. If he is not available, I don't think they agreed or they considered the option of doing it by Zoom. So it's physical. They want him there physically. And then Senate probes Accountant General's office over, look at that, 978 billion naira service-wide votes. Yeah, 978 billion naira. So, I mean, you hear
what's the amount of money for?
Service-wide votes. So you wonder, what is this one again? Another hundreds of billions of naira? Oh dear, I know. Yeah, they've got several other stories here. FG, why we can't scrap, make NYSC optional. So says rationale for establishing scheme subsists after 49 years.
Yes, and I think that, you know, they need to put that to a general vote, and I believe that the general vote will certainly carry the day that that scheme should continue.
Hoping it doesn't turn out the Elon Musk way. To vote.
I hope not. Well, I don't know. For the people who have been calling for the scrapping, I do not understand where they're coming from. I don't. But
yeah,
left to me,
be.
I think that, you know, the NYSC as a scheme should continue.
Yeah.
It should continue.
So if they want to modify and improve it, fine. You know, so I mean,
they've been doing a lot of improvements, in fairness to them. They've been incorporating a lot of things to it. In fact, perhaps they should extend it. They should find a way, because if we say that schools are not entirely where our students learn entrepreneurship and the skills that they really need in the job market, perhaps through the NYC, we can begin to, you know, tailor the skills for the areas where the economy really needs them from the NYSC, and then see what is possible there. And that's what a lot of the programs they've introduced now are now coming to do, to help the young ones or those who enroll in the scheme to be self-reliant and not waiting for jobs after they finish the scheme. So, by all means, this NYSC scheme should continue.
All right, and then you also have Kano Hisba arrests 19 youths for same-sex marriage. No Telegraph usually have this health line at the bottom strip here. Study links common food dye to inflammatory bowel diseases. So you need to read that in case you've been wondering what's going on with this prevalence of all sorts of bowel diseases.
these days.
Maybe this might help you.
Yes.
You never know.
As much as possible, if you're cooking this season, avoid as much as possible, you know, things that are unnatural to the human body, or ingredients that are not natural, you know, or flavorings, dyes, all manner of things. Just cook the food. It's flavorful already.
How do those
MSG.
point and kill people how do you tell them this now in case?
Point and kill. What has that got to do with anything, Chimberley?
Don't they use MSG, Steve? They must have finished cooking it before you get
Salt and pepper does a great work on catfish, Chamberlain. Stop revealing your your secrets here.
No. You know, we're journalists. We ask all sorts of questions. We go to all sorts of places.
Yeah, people know
especially
what you
this
like now.
Christmas.
Point and kill.
Ayo, don't lock your doors. Buki, don't lock your doors because I'm watching both of you closely.
Don't lock your door. You want to visit them?
Well, look, it's anything can happen.
Oh, well. I know that with all the bullets you've been throwing to Ayo, when he doesn't lock his door, if you come through that door, I know it's only love that will greet you.
Oh, dear.
Well, leadership has a rather interesting story about people sleeping. It says, NIPC snores as Nigeria loses more investment opportunities.
Snores.
Oh, yeah, that's what it was. There's a Hamatan here in Abuja. I don't know how severe it is in other parts of the country.
What a day he had yesterday, or wherever it was.
But really, if you're you know, snoozing on the job and you're missing investment opportunities,
You lose.
you know, exactly, you snooze, you lose. That's what they say. So maybe there is no other way to caption it than for you to say he's snoring. NIPC snores as Nigeria loses more investment opportunities. Omar's action ground commission to a halt. Executive Secretary keeps mum over mounting allegations. You find all of the details somewhere on page 4 of the paper. Look at that. Withdrawal limits. Lawmakers refuse to shift ground. Gbajabiamila meets PMB. Remember that stuff I told you? One with the president is what? Majority.
So what are they going to do now?
I don't know. Maybe that's why there's a meeting to say, we just want to ask a few questions. But I don't know what that meeting was about, to be honest. Just, this is just me speculating. Page 7 is where you find details, just in case you're interested, as I am, in that story. The leadership is also mourning the passing of Shehu Malami. You can see it there, the prince from Sokoto. It's a litany of tributes, and you also have a number of tales from Sarkin, Sudan. It's a juicy tales from Sarkin, Sudan by Mahmoud Jaga. If you like history, you might want to flip to page 8 to get a number of those anecdotes. Look at this one. Flight delays, cancellation loom over Jet A1 scarcity. No. That's according to airlines. Traveled 2 weeks ago, Chamberlain, and the airport felt like Dugbe Market. Oh. I don't know why I'm going to Ibadan again, but that's...
Ibadan's getting the award this morning.
And interestingly, I've never been to Dubai, but I know that when things look a bit rowdy, my father used to say, it looks like Dubai Market here. So I'll take it from there. Because really, the airports were very rowdy. Wow. A lot of people traveling. So I cannot imagine that we'll add flight cancellation or Jet A1 scarcity. You know, I hope that the aviation industry will be on its, you know, best game this season. It's bad enough that sometimes the weather, you know, prevents flights from, you know, being able to take off. But I hope that Jet A1 scarcity will not be one of the reasons why people will not be able to see their loved ones and in good time in this season. Please let us make sure that the airports work as they need to work, and the airlines as well. After conviction, Okupe quits as Obi Dati campaign DG. They also have that story there for you. The campaign continues. They have stories. I'll reopen all borders to boost economy. That's according to Atiku. And then look at this. Tinubu intervenes in Cross River APC crisis. You really have to read the headline. Initially, I thought it was Rivers APC crisis, but I looked again, and it was Cross River.
They need one house,
if
they're to pull together.
Oh, well, that's where we'll have to leave it for leadership newspapers.
Well, look at the Daily Times newspaper this morning, and what do you have on its front page? IPOP attacks. Igbo avoid Christmas trips to Southeast. So, Chamberlain, lull at motor parks, airports, as many remain in North
You were about to say
Abuja,
something.
Lagos. No. Economic slowdown worsens apathy. We will dare the odds. Stay where you are, relatives tell kinsmen. That's the Daily Trust newspaper this morning, Chamberlain. And that's the much of the papers we can take now. We'll be back after now to begin the issues for the day. You stay with us.
With this squad app, I think my customers will understand that it's my own POS. No wuru wuru, no waka waka.
All right, welcome back to Sunrise Daily. We're talking local governments and states, some matter going on between them. Remember that this quest for financial autonomy has been on for a while. And then there seems to be this back and forth, breakback-like between local government, states, at some point, Attorney General of the Federation, National Assembly, all entwined in that matter. But yesterday there was a meeting and the rally of sorts. So the National Union of Local Government Employees did speak up saying, look, they want this fast-tracked. So we're looking at that. And the man who led that rally joins us this morning, Akeem Ambali Olatunji, National President, Nigerian Union of Local Government Employees, NULGE. He joins us virtually from Jos. Good morning, comrade. Thank you for joining us on the program today.
A wonderful morning to you.
Let's start off with asking you, all right, now this, as I said, has been going back and forth, but you had that rally yesterday saying that there's need for this to move forward. And moving forward, for some who oppose this, think that no, that is taking one step forward and 10 steps backward. Why was it necessary for you to lead this rally at this point, asking for financial autonomy?
Thank you. Importantly, you know, the bill for passage of local government autonomy, both financial and administrative, has been transmitted to State House Assembly for over 8 months ago. We started with advocacy to the leadership of House of Assembly across the country. We also did sensitization rally across the country to prevail on the House of Assembly and lobby them for quick passage of the bill. But regrettably, as of today, only 20 State House of Assembly attended to the bill. And out of that 20, 16 voted in favor of the bill, while the remaining voted against the passage of the bill. But as of today, we realize that there appears to be a conspiracy going on, that the bill should be left unattended to until after election, whereby most of teaming Nigerians who demanded for passage of local government autonomy bill as a panacea for solving myriads of problems confronting Nigeria will have voted. They will have been swindled by their vote, and at the end of the day, the issue will remain static. So, coming from the past experience we had on this issue, we decided that it is time now to come out openly and also visit the various House Assembly that still dragging on the passage of the bill. We also know that it is as a result of continuous pressure by various state governments that are prevailing on the House of Assembly to either abandon the passage or delay it until after election. Because NULGE has come out to mobilize Nigerians to say that any state House of Assembly or any state government that is blocking the passage of this bill is anti-people, and Nigerians should come out and vote against the leadership of that state, either at the State Assembly or as a gubernatorial candidate. Because you know it is time now to solve Nigerian problem. And we cannot continue doing the same thing every time and expect a different result. Nigeria is suffering from so many problems: banditry, kidnapping, and terrorism, and rural boundary as a result of rural migration, because the rural infrastructure at the community level has collapsed, the security network has collapsed, there's no potable water supply there, the basic health facility is now not performing optimally. And when you look at all this, even the primary education is no longer performing optimally as expected. And there is harrowing poverty in the land. And people are denied gainful employment, vocational skill acquisition that used to be provided by the local government level, by local government for the people at the grassroots level. And we have realized that no matter the amount of programs, how beautiful the programs and policies of federal and state governments has been construed, it cannot cascade the land, because we have a local government that is no longer functional, that is not performing, and are no longer serving Nigerian as a service center. That's why we said it is time. We should not sit at home. It is time to come out. All Nigerians must also join NULGE in this crusade to free local government from the gulag of debt imposed on it by the various government.
Well, certainly a lot of Nigerians would like to see the local government system come back to life. However, there are those who say that it must be done through the right process. They believe that if operating a federal system, we should have the federal government and then the state government. And it is within the purview of the states to recognize or to create as many local governments as needed for them to be able to effectively administer a particular state. What's your take on that?
One, there's no hard and fast rule about federalism. Like I said yesterday, in UK, we don't even have the state government as a federal entity, as part of the federating unit. Even Ghana, very close to us here, has a functional local government system and a central government. In Gambia, there is no state government. So there's no hard and fast rule that you must, the federating unit must be federal and state. This lame excuse has been the weak point of negotiation and in convincing Nigeria by state government alone. The normal process, the legitimate process of constitutional amendment has been followed. The National Assembly conducted a referendum, and majority of Nigerians, over 95% of Nigerians who attended the referendum, both at the national level, at the zonal level, at the state level, voted in support of local government autonomy. And we just not wake up one day and get to this point of view. I want you to recollect that between 1979 to 1993, we have a functional local government system. And that was the era that we have a local government that delivered dividends of democracy to Nigerian people. It was because of the Alabamas in 1999 constitution that foisted a weak system on Nigeria. And as of today, I also know that millions of Nigerians are not happy with the way Nigeria is passing through this deteriorating situation. And once the foundation is weak, the building will collapse. As of today, Nigeria has become the poverty headquarters of the world. Despite the humongous amount of money realized through crude oil and other taxes. But despite that, it has not rubbed off on development and progress in Nigeria. So for us, we believe that Nigerian constitution is drafted to suit Nigerian purpose. There is similarity in federating states, but it does not mean that you must follow hook, line, and sinker what is applicable in other states. Nigeria is a nation consisting of so many micro nations. We have the John nation, we have the Arewa nation, we have the Yoruba nation, we have so many nations that consist the nation called Nigeria. So for us, we need to have our own democracy that suits our purpose, that will serve Nigerian people. Democracy is the government of the people, by the people, for the people. We must not follow what is not working. We must not continue remaining on the same spot.
Yeah, pardon me to just jump in here. There are quite a number of people think, I mean, you know that this matter has also been in court, and the governors are arguing that, yes, it is hard and fast to the extent that Section 4, Subsection 7, Section 7, Sub 6, 162 of the Constitution says that what you're asking for cannot happen. And so when they cite the laws, isn't that outrightly hard and fast?
No, they didn't challenge the constitutional amendment in court. What they challenged is the NFIU guidelines. And the Supreme Court gave a judgment saying that federal government cannot use executive order to amend constitution. We must follow constitutional procedure, which the National Assembly has done, and they have conformed with the law. What remains now is that the bill that has been transmitted to the State House Assembly should be attended to. The democratic right and function of House of Assembly is to debate and vote on all bills. You cannot abdicate your role under any disguise. You either vote yes or no. That is the way to go in democracy. You can't keep a bill under suspense and pretend the bill is not there, and you continue to use the late act.
Are you suggesting that go ahead and vote, whether they vote yes or no, it doesn't matter?
No, that is. But Nigerians demand that they should vote yes, and Nigerians are also watching them. We are now wiser. That is why they are jittery, because they know if they vote no, they will lose. The party will lose the election, and they know that because that is what Nigerian people demand. Even you and I demand that. You cannot, let me tell you, Shimbale, you can't go to your state freely now. You can't go to your community freely. Rural security lies squarely on the shoulder of local government, because all security challenges are local. The solution to it is local. That is why now you can see the relatives sending messages home to Igbo people in Lagos, not to come home. Is that a good thing in democracy? Why must Nigeria be punished for voting for these people? So our belief is that if you want to grow local economy, if you want to grow the GDP, the rural GDP accumulates into state GDP and national GDP. If you want,
are you aware that some of the governors met yesterday on this matter, and quite a number think that nope, they're going to stand their ground on this one. So I'm wondering why you think that the action you held yesterday will attain or get the kind of results that you seek.
Let me tell you, every state governor that is blocking passage of that bill is the person that has been If you are not stealing local government funds, if you are not pilfering local government funds, that is meant for progressive transformation of local communities, why are you blocking the passage? The law needs to be amended, and they are on a process of amendment. The governor, if the federal government has been behaving this way to state government, seizing their allocation, will state government thrive? You are elected to be state governor, for God's sake, not a chairman of local government.
All right, come, just a minute. Let me bring in my colleagues from Lagos. They've also been, at least we've looked at this matter for a while. So, guys, go ahead.
Let me begin with something you said earlier, comrade. You said that, you know, the state governments or the houses of assembly are keeping the bills under the table. But I remember, I think it's sometime in October, the chairman of that Constitutional Review Committee and deputy president of the Senate said, you know, made a statement which the Conference of Speakers of State Legislatures of Nigeria responded to. And they made a promise. It said all the state houses of assembly shall ratify the resolutions of the National Assembly in the ongoing constitutional review exercise in no distant time. State houses of assembly are individually empowered by the Constitution to play their roles according to the needs of the people, and that we shall do. So isn't this sufficient assurance for you from the state houses of assembly that they will do the needful in good time?
That statement you have quoted is not specific. Our belief is that a good politician must have a political antenna to receive and transmit political impulses between the grassroots and government. If Nigerians demanded for local passage of local government autonomy bill, if the representative really represent their people and they are going to their rural community regularly and their constituency office regularly, they will see harrowing poverty in the faces of their people. They will see the neglect of rural communities. They will see that the rural roads are no longer motorable. They will see insecurity in the land. They will see suffering in the land. They will see hopelessness in the land. A very good politician will immediately prioritize passage of local government autonomy bill. So saying that we will pass it as soon as possible is not specific.
Okay.
It's not time bound,
okay.
and you can't rely on that.
Well,
and again, we are also aware they are under the influence of the governors. That is why the governors are jittery. They are holding clandestine and nocturnal meetings with the speaker. This is the fourth meeting they are holding with the speaker.
So
why?
essentially, you are saying,
government.
just to be clear, for those who have suspected this, essentially you are saying that the Houses of Assembly are not independent enough. They are not man enough by themselves without the agreement of the governors to do what the Constitution tells them to do.
If it is obvious, if House of Assembly are really independent, there will be no need to clamor for legislative independence, which is part of the demand of labor, that the legislative arm should be financially administratively independent. You see, if democracy must work in Nigeria, all the three arms of government must be independent of one another. We have also listened to the claims that local government should be under the state. Let me tell you, it is for administrative convenience. It is not for them to siphon local government money. The spirit and letters of Section 162 of 1999 Constitution is clear that there should be a basket through which local government allocation should be deposited. Percentage of the IGR, about 10%, should be deposited, and it should be redistributed to the state. It's not that it should be a conduit pipe through which local government allocation is siphoned. The Constitution, if it has been operated properly, this problem will not be here in Nigeria.
Okay, well, comrades, we have quite a number of grounds. Just a second. We have quite a number of grounds to cover, but let me just ask you this one before my colleague comes in here. You know that the Ondo State House of Assembly, well, your members in Ondo State, pretty much, what did they do now? Stampeded or, locked down or went to the Ondo State House of Assembly after the Ondo State House of Assembly seemed to have, said no. They were insisting, pretty much going to shut down the place, campaigning in front of the House of Assembly. Now, there are those who are wondering, is that the way to go? Protests at the Houses of Assembly, wouldn't that be antithetical to the objectives?
That was exaggerated.
Okay.
We had the intelligence report that day before yesterday, the majority members of our assembly voted for local government autonomy. But the few among them who, because they are not sure of the position of the state government, because the governor was not on ground, decided to cause commotion in the House. And our members decided to go there to attend the debate session to ensure that they witness how the bill is voted. Because day before yesterday, it was inconclusive election. So yesterday, they want to be there to see the honorable representing them. They were so peaceful. The rally was peaceful. They were there to witness what was going on in the House of Assembly because they are part of the people who voted for these honorable members. And they need to have a feedback that they will go back to their communities to inform them that your honorable member voted for what you desire, the local government autonomy, or he voted against it. So that is why our people were there. There was no destruction of any property. There was no abusive language use. They conducted themselves in an orderly manner and they were there. But surprisingly, the House, because of this, maybe because of the crowd they saw, they decided to close down and also adjourn till next year.
Comrade, if 16 states have voted for local government autonomy, that's quite a number. And, it negates that view that, all of them are tied to the apron strings of their governor. This is why I'm asking, as a follow-up, besides this rally that you're conducting in the open, what other forms of engagement and lobbying are you doing with your members, with the other 10 state assemblies to encourage them, to get on board and convince them about the need for local government autonomy?
Yes, and like I did say, our approach was to commence the lobby with advocacy. We started with the leaders of Nigeria, past leaders. President Obasanjo was visited by the union as a part of our advocacy, and President Goodluck Jonathan. We were with our eminent personality, the Zion of Danta family, we were with the Emir of Kano, we were with a lot of people. We did that. After that, we started contacting these honorable members. We wrote a letter appealing to them for the possible consideration of passage of this bill. After that, we staged a sensitization rally. That was in March. Again, we continued the secret lobby until September. We did another sensitization rally. For example, here in Jos, we did that, and across the country. And that was what led to the passage by 16 states. But we are receiving reports that these people are ready to pass the bill. It is the state governors that are threatening them not to pass it. And that is evident. Because anytime we commence this lobby, the state governor will quickly urgently call an emergency secret meeting to prevail on them and beg them, try to coerce them, induce them to vote against autonomy or suspend it. But the state governor are also aware that Nigerians demand for passage of local government autonomy, and even the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, let's give it to him, came out openly after seeing the report by NIPS. NULGE was at NIPS, but they studied the problem bedeviling the nation. They realized that the major solution to resolving this problem is giving autonomy to local government. They submitted the report, Cost 44 of NIPS, submitted a report to President, and President looked at it, and he was angered by saying that those who are blocking local government autonomy are thieves. They are the ones promoting poverty in the land, which is clear, a clear statement.
I'd like to follow up by asking what options are open to you for those outstanding states. But this is just as critical, Comrade Ambali. In the last decade or two, we've had some states create additional local governments, i.e. the LCDAs that we find in Lagos. So in view of that, perhaps, you know, in the coming dispensation, you get ahead with, local government autonomy across board. How easy will it be, you know, for administration where you have these additional LCDAs in picture, especially in terms of finances?
Yes, the position paper of union is clear. We submitted a position paper during the referendum. We are not advanced to creating additional local government because the population is not static. There is continuous growth in our population dynamics in Nigeria. And we also realize that we need additional local government. But let us standardize the procedure of creating local government. One, we recommended to the National Assembly that any community that has a population of 500,000 or thereabout should be considered as a local government, not even LCDA. We should also have
just a second. Comrade, the question my colleague has asked you hasn't really been answered. How will the local government and local council development authorities work together? But I guess we'll keep that question for some other time because we are completely out of time now. Olatunji Ambali is National President, Nigeria Union of Local Government Employees, joined us virtually from Jos. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you. Creation of local government is fundamental right of Nigeria. Okay. We believe in it, but it must be standardized. Okay. That is the answer to the question.
Thank you. So we're back after now to take on another issue. Please stay with us.
Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. Well, yes, as you've seen there, Mr. Babatunde Fashola, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Minister for Works and Housing, joins us next to shed light on a number of issues, I tell you. Good morning. Good to see you again.
Good morning. How are you today?
Well, we're doing well. We're doing well. Could be better, actually.
Always could be.
She knows what I'm Well, so many things happening in the polity. But let's just quickly pick your brain on this one because, I mean, we're not there in the offices to know what's going on. This morning, the dailies are reporting that the federal government is going to ban cash withdrawal from public accounts. So we're wondering, what does that exactly mean? I mean, how is that going to play out for you?
Well, really, do we pay cash? I don't know if we pay cash, really. That's not my remit. That's the remit of the directors in finance and accounts. And they are staff of the Ministry of Finance, particularly the Accountant General. So they're posted to every ministry. Just like the directors of legal services in each ministry are not staff of our ministries. They're staff of the Ministry of Justice. Just like the director of procurement, directorate of they're staffed by people from the Bureau of Public Procurement. And the same way that we have engineers in other ministries providing engineering support. So those are matters over which I have no remit.
Yeah, but just wondering how that affects ministries like yours and operations around, if for any instance you have need to use cash, are there circumstances where that is required?
Well, really, I don't think, I can't recall a reason or an incident where I've needed cash. And because most of the services...
Not you personally.
No, I understand
the
you.
Ministry,
Most of the services we probably have to engage. Okay, like just this morning, going through one of the files, we have to host the Shelter Africa annual general meeting as a contributing nation. So we are the next host in May, and we're planning how to finance that. So most of the things we have to pay for, hiring the conference hall and all of that, hiring venues, and I think they can be done without necessarily paying cash.
Okay, let's come to the one that's within your remit, works and housing. I know that the second Niger Bridge is the latest, some of the activities that your ministry has worked on. So what is the latest scenario now about the bridge?
Well, what has happened, first of all, let's just understand why infrastructure. Why do nations commit to infrastructure? It's one of the tools for development, for economic growth, for work, for creation of employment, for distributing wealth, and also for tackling poverty, especially multidimensional poverty, because it speaks to quality of life. Can you transact a business in 1 hour as against 4 hours? Is another country able to do that thing in 30 minutes as against your 1 hour? That's part of the global competitiveness. So that's why people invest in infrastructure. So the purpose of this bridge was to bring relief to Nigerians who traverse from east to west or from west to east of Nigeria across the River Niger. And especially during the end of the year, we know that it's a logistics nightmare, moving goods and services, people going on holiday, people coming for weddings, people festivities. So the bridge itself is finished. The road linking it to the Obusi end on the Anambra side is finished, except for the interchange, which is at different levels of completion. So the road linking it to the Asaba side is the one that we could not finish.
Is that the 2A and 2B approach roads?
No. The A and 2B approach roads are a next phase of development that we planned. But just to link you so that you can have a choice whether to use the old bridge or the new bridge. So the president thought, why not now? Open it. Let people use it so that they would have that relief during this period. And you know, we have this embalmment planning where we are planning how to make it better, because we know that it's a festive period. The ports are busy, sea and airports, so the roads also will be busy. There's demand for fuel. There's more energy demand. People are moving gifts around, hampers. So that's part of the embalmment plan. So we said, open that place up and provide a choice for people. And we expect that it will relieve the inconvenience at this time of the year. We did the same thing on Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. There's still work to be done there, but we think that it can get better if we remove the construction barriers so that it's a proper thoroughfare. We did the same thing on Abuja-Kano. And so across on Abuja-Kano, which is 365 kilometers, we have only 5 obstructions, and they are for safety. One on the Kano to Zaria end, none on the Zaria to Kaduna end, and 4 on the Kaduna to Abuja end. And we're monitoring, and the feedback we get is positive.
Yeah, I mean, looking at especially the second Niger Bridge and the Lagos-Ibadan, but the second Niger Bridge really looked good at night for those who have seen it, so the imagery is good. But for that next phase, which you speak about, the 2A, 2B approach roads, when is that going to take off? And now that this road has been opened, is that not going to affect the overall completion time?
No. You see, projects are delivered in phases. First of all, we couldn't cross. Now we can cross. Yeah. Big problem solved. Not by talk, not by promise, but by very, very clear and dedicated action by the president, his team, and everybody who has been involved in this. So problem solved. Expansion and extensions, connectivity to other parts are what 2A and 2B are all about. It has nothing to do with crossing. There are existing roads that provide that service, but you can then extend. So it's just like on Lagos-Ibadan, we're focused on the main carriageway, but there are service lanes that have been designed into it. There are interchanges to provide relief for those going to the worship centers that have evolved around the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. Those are another phase of the program. And don't forget, we still have challenges of financing, and people must understand that this president deserves, and this government, by extension, deserves every commendation for the way that it has decided to finance infrastructure, not by those nebulous PPPs that were ill thought out and delayed the execution of the project, but by mobilizing the nation's resources, first of all, money that was stolen and taken out of Nigeria. So when people are talking about poverty today, remember that some people caused and contributed to it by taking out money out of our Commonwealth and going to stash it abroad. It brought back some of that money. Some are still coming in. Then our income dividends from NLNG, he said, dedicate it to these projects. Just keep going. And we are getting recoveries also from different areas, but money is not enough to finish the project in terms of you don't have all the cash sitting. But every income that comes is dedicated to this project in terms of those recoveries, our income dividend, and so on and so forth.
Okay, I thought that when those roads were conceived, about, I think they said about 70% of the funds were already made available by NSIA and JB being the investor companies and things like that.
That was the model that we met. And the model was not coming forth with the money. So when people also talk about these PPPs, because I hear candidates saying they are going to privatize everything, give everything to the private sector, and you need to understand the global private sector, first of all, is largely MSMEs. Micro, small, and medium. You can't give everything to them. They don't even have the capacity. The micros employ roughly about 10 people, the medium less than 50, the small less than 200. So you can't, it can't be a governance model to say you are going to give everything to private sector. How large are they? But to speak to the point, when I took office, I called them and I said, look, there was this plan that you said you were going to mobilize. Is this plan still viable? And they said no, that they can't raise the money. So I wrote a memo to the president that this is not going to work. My recommendation, every little penny that you can gather, let's start building. And if we start building, it de-risks the project. And at any time, if anybody feels willing and able to come and buy out government, then can hand it over. But let's start building. And the president accepted the recommendation. And after a few weeks, he asked his chief of staff to inform me that they had set up a PIDF, the Presidential Infrastructure Development Fund, which was monies now coming from, the first tranche of monies actually came from our dividend income from the NLNG. And that they should just, so NSIA pays, and every other fund kept with NSIA, but they're all government funds.
But what about those investment partners? Were they still there?
No,
NSIA
they left. Government had taken over his project. NSI is government-owned. It's a sovereign investment authority.
What about the JB component?
No, JB is not just a contractor. There is no cover of JB in this venture. This is all government-funded.
Okay, well,
101%.
I think it is important, you know, that these questions be asked because we see that there's a toll on the bridge. It has been opened temporarily. For how long?
Well, the plan is to make the east to west crossing. So if you are coming from Asaba or Benin, going to the east and beyond, and that started from the 15th, it will last till the 1st of January.
Okay.
It's a one-way crossing.
That's going, okay.
Going. So that on the 2nd, we will reverse what we have done and allow people to use it from the 3rd. We need a day to change that and allow people to use it for the east to west crossing now, going back from the east westwards. And then on the 15th, we will shut it down again so that we can finish the 4-kilometer access route that we're actually trying to build, and also complete the interchanges that I told you are not completed.
So finally, when will the project, as you would love for it to be delivered, when will it be delivered? Truth
be told, the target date is somewhere April, May, but these dates keep shifting, and people must remember that on the eastern side, our contractors have not been able to work on Mondays for almost 2 years. So that has affected the completion dates.
They're not making it up with any other day?
Well, where do you find the new day? If you lose
Saturday,
52,
perhaps?
No, including they work on Saturdays. Construction here is Monday to Saturday. But if you lose 52 or 40, for almost 50 Mondays every year, you lost 52 days of construction. Where do you make that up? And then we've also had some challenges that we had to overcome in terms of timelines. For example, we had to relocate all the transmission lines connecting the east to the west across that river. All of them had to be moved. So again, we lost some days because the power company had to shut down. They had contracts to supply energy. They had contracts to take gas. So all of these things are unseen. Okay. But those are things we have to overcome.
Okay. Yeah, so, I mean, that is what we currently, you say between April and May.
Yes.
But looking at the work which you say is left, which is the 4-kilometer road, it can take 4 months to finish a 4-kilometer road.
So let me explain that part to you. We're building in marshland. So you have to dredge, accumulate sand. If you go there now, I can go with you anytime you want to go and see. I think you guys should come. So you have to sand fill. When you sand fill or you reclaim land from the marsh, you have to wait for it to settle. You can't start building the following day. So in fact, the reason why that is even possible is that we are using a technology called prefabricated vertical drains to accelerate the settlement and the drainage so that we can start building quicker than ordinarily if you left. If you are familiar with sand filling in areas like Lagos and whatever, when you sand fill, you can't start building. You allow for settlement first, and that takes anything between 6 months to 18 months, depending on the nature of the terrain.
So another 4 months, but the tolls are going to be there. The bridge is certainly going to be tolled.
Inevitably, the bridge will be tolled.
Yes.
Now, that is the job of NSIA, because part of what we are looking at is that we have a bridge that is properly maintained. So this is where private sector capacity becomes useful. They may not be able to mobilize the capital to buy the asset, but they're able to mobilize the expertise and the efficiency to operate it, of course, not without some due diligence being done. So that was our experience, my experience in Lagos when we did the Lekki bridge. Government built the bridge, but we contracted a private sector operator to manage the operation of the collection of the toll.
If I could follow up on this tolling bit.
Yeah.
I understand that the initial concept was for it to be tolled for 27 years. But as that stands, they said that there was going to be a viability gap for that period because they won't be able to make their money at that point. So what is government thinking and how long is it going to be told for?
Okay, so I'm not dwelling on the past. It didn't work.
Okay.
It was, in my view, not well thought out. But that's yesterday's story. What government will do again, my responsibility is to deliver the asset. Government, as the owner, will then decide how it wants it to be concessioned, under what terms and conditions. We have an institution created by law, the Infrastructure Concession and Regulatory Authority. That would then be their responsibility to see what the business case is, how much are you bringing, what expertise are you bringing, what are you investing, what are we bringing, and to then decide whether the term of years makes sense. You would expect a transaction where you will make profit, but you should not expect a transaction where you will profiteer. So, and where there is balance. And it may well be another model, and those are issues for tomorrow. My issue is to deliver on my mandate and deliver the asset. Once I'm done with that, what the asset owner wants to do with it is responsibility
of the second phase.
So another department's responsibility.
The second phase, 2A, 2B approach ones will be the next phase.
Yes, it will be the next phase.
When is this next phase?
Well, again, those are the reasons why it may become expedient to then find a viable investor who says, okay, I can mobilize this capital. And we do the stress test, because we've done in the past privatization for people who couldn't raise the money. So if you look at the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, for example, the alarm bells were ringing from day one. First of all, how many people could raise almost 200 billion naira in this economy in 2006? That was the first thing to tell you something was going to be wrong. Then, even if you could raise it, who had 5-year money at that time? I was in a state government, and the longest we could borrow as a state government then was 5 years. The first state bond issued was 5 or 7 years. So where were you going to get 30-year money to do an asset? So there was a mismatch. Something was going to go wrong. And it had very little to do with whoever was involved. The financial headlines alone, if you were looking at it, how many Nigerians could raise 200 billion from our financial institutions, locally or internationally?
Okay, we'll continue.
Those are the kind of privatizations we must listen to those alarm bells. How many of the people in the private sector who are AMCON beneficiaries? Because AMCON is government buying back the debt of private sector to save the financial sector from collapse. So if you are concessioning assets to people whose debts you have bought, something is wrong.
All right. We'll continue with that, the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway and some of the roads when we come back in just a moment. Stay with us. I know we're speaking about Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, but let me let my colleagues who are right there to follow up on that one. Go ahead, guys.
So have we spoken about the Abuja-Kaduna so that's just there. Well, Ms. Fashola, it's good to see you again and to know that, I mean, you must have learned a lot. A lawyer turned engineer, no doubt. Just a quick question. I mean, all of these infrastructure issues that you have had to venture in over time, what's the maintenance plan? Because at the end of the day, that's what it comes to. In another 10, 15 years from now, if we're not able to maintain these roads, that would be a challenge. What's the maintenance plan for these infrastructure?
You will recall that this year, the president signed, I believe, Executive Order number 11. And it was an executive order making maintenance front and center of our national economy. And the president, I believe, I recall in that statement, said maintenance is not a culture, it's an economy. We must nurture it to really optimize the benefits that lie in it. In the construction industry, what you will see is that construction and design just employs roughly about 30% of the labor capacities there. It is actually maintenance and operation that delivers the long-term sustainable jobs. So there's a maintenance plan in place. as a matter of national policy and the first at the federal government level in our history. But beyond that, our ministry is driving maintenance. If you go to our secretariats, 24 federal secretariats now have been renovated and rehabilitated, and they now have maintenance contractors creating jobs. Each of those maintenance contractors employs not less than 40 people. Those jobs were not there before we came. You will see us on, we're working on about 40-something bridges, from Marine to Eko Bridge to Tamburawa to Cotton Cafe Bridge, across the country. Even the old Niger Bridge is now under maintenance. And the people working there, divers, engineers, and so on and so forth. So when we talk about infrastructure as a major economic driver, I wonder what other people see. I remember somebody once said, you can't grow the economy by infrastructure, and how wrong that person has been. Historically, empirically, infrastructure has been a major driver of growth. It unleashes so many other sectors of the economy, not just by the construction jobs it creates, but by the knock-on effect on transport, logistics, deliveries. So roads lead to ports, they lead to agro centers, they lead to petrochemical depots, they lead to border crossings. So you see, we just opened a bridge, the Mfom Ekok Bridge that links us to Cameroon. We can't be talking about African Continental Free Trade Area and have barriers across. People can't do business. 2 weeks ago, I was in Togo as chairman of the steering committee of ministers trying to complete the Lagos-Abidjan highway. Our section is the Badagry Expressway, now under construction. 40 million people rely on that 1,038-kilometer road from Lagos to Abidjan. So this is how critical and topical infrastructure is to economic growth. So when people are saying, oh, they like one country better than another country, it's largely the quality of life driven by the services and infrastructure that it's able to deliver. So I believe that this government, this president, gets it very clearly by putting his foot down on the infrastructure deal. The rewards will be there long after he has gone.
The question again is the plan. I mean, you are working on the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, for instance, and having been governor, you know the level of decay that has come to many of the bridges in the city simply because they weren't maintained per schedule. So that's the thing that I'm actually asking you. What's the maintenance plan? What's the schedule? Looking at maybe every 1 year or every 2 years, these things we're going to come back to them. Otherwise, we may have to, in another 30, 40 years from now, come back to what you are doing on Lagos-Ibadan Expressway.
There's preventive maintenance and there's scheduled maintenance. And all of these, of course, are developed. If it's roads, for example, all of the maintenance works are handed over to FEMA. We have a statutory agency to deal with that. So, and they will decide. But in the first few years of any road, you shouldn't expect any deterioration. And what we do now is we've developed a team and capacity to do condition assessment. And it is based on what you find during the assessment that determines how you deliver on the maintenance. Also, we are doing a lot of advocacy about our proper use as against abuse of our roads. So axle load compliance, use of the shoulders are things that we're also dealing with in order to ensure that maintenance is not only efficient, it is cost effective. Because if you abuse something, then maintenance may not give you the full life expectancy of it. So in the ministry, for example, as far as the bridges are concerned, there is a department now doing regular bridge inspection and designing maintenance programs for them. So I hope that answers your question.
Oh, most certainly it does. Might I also add to that the issue of way bridges? Of course, I don't. You've been in the saddle enough to know, for long enough to know that. I mean, unless there are way bridges, some vehicles will be overloaded and eventually damage the road for staying too long at a certain place. I haven't heard much of way bridges in some of these infrastructure that have been developed.
Yes, because we have decided, first of all, to address the axle load compliance from the point of loading. We believe that a major achievement can be made if we address point of loading. So the President, again, approved recommendations I made to him for directives to all the ports operating institutions and also the petroleum managers in the depots to not load any vessel or any vehicle, rather, that exceeded the prescribed axle load regulations. There has been some compliance in that respect. There are other operators, of course, who we still have to deal with. So we targeted the Lagos port and a few ports. We also targeted the major petroleum depots. We thought that the enforcement must start with some plan, and the plan was get the big elephant out of the room, and then you come to the smaller issues. So one of the things we've done post that is to rehabilitate the way bridge at the old toll gate in Lagos. And there is another one going towards Ikorodu, which we are trying to complete. But enforcement in that regard has been a little challenging because there are operators and stakeholders, especially petroleum and truck drivers, who say, no, they're not going to comply and all of that. And I've said to them, look, you have to comply. So we're working with our partner ministries, Ministry of Labor, Ministry of Petroleum, because we don't want to implement policy and then also cause discomfort to citizens. But I have made it very clear to them that my directives and the law are clearly that you cannot do business at the expense of Nigerians. And at some point in time or the other, you must comply. And I'm sure that reason and persuasion will bring that on rather than compulsion.
Well, Mr. Fashola, how successful has the road infrastructure tax credit scheme been? And how many organizations are involved in it? I know you mentioned the Nigeria LNG earlier. I don't know if it's part of that scheme. Talk to us about how successful has that been, especially in terms of funding the infrastructure projects that you've been working on.
Yeah, it has been reasonably successful, getting stronger and appealing to some members of the private sector over time. Don't forget, this was a policy initiated in 2019. And as I say to people, between policy, programs, and results, there's quite some distance and bridges to cross. But at the moment, I believe that we have the Dangote Group, we have the NLNG. The NLNG is funding the Bodo Boni Bridge using the tax credit. We have the GZ Industries funding a road in Abia. We have lately the MTN Group. We have the Mainstream Power Group who are funding some roads leading to their assets in Niger. Who have I missed? I think we have the Bua Group now who are going to fund the Kano to Kongolam Highway. I think there's one I'm missing, and I hope that I will remember who that is. No disrespect to them. Yes, the NNPC group also, and they've been winds to our sail, I must say, because they've helped us really tackle very, very capital-intensive road projects, and we're still expecting more. A few other telecoms groups are already indicating interest on the other, or Taidi Roko. So it's been quite a success, and commendation to the entire team, especially the president, who is the leader of that team, my colleague, the Minister of Finance, the FIRS, and everybody who has been part of that team. It's been wind behind our sails. Very impactful.
Yeah, that's music to our ears, particularly with regards to infrastructure. Good morning, Mr. Fashola. I'd like to talk about the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. You referred to interchanges earlier. I imagine that you're talking about the bridges that are under construction at different portions of the expressway. But there are other, access routes that serve as alternative to the main carriageway itself. And it's not a road used only by those visiting worship centers. There are quite a number of Nigerians using the expressway. But perhaps it's important to mention here that it may be the only exit route from Lagos to other parts of the country. So during this bout of construction that has now been suspended for the Yuletide, many Nigerians have gone through the most excruciating circumstances. So I know it's a matter of jurisdiction, which is what I want you to clarify. It won't cost a fortune, to grade the earth roads such that motorists can have, a bearable driving experience, especially when the construction resumes. Clarify that it's a matter of jurisdiction between the federal government and the state government. But pending when construction resumes after the Yuletide, what can be done to alleviate the sufferings of Nigerians who use that road?
Well, I would have been surprised if you didn't ask me this question. A little bit told me that you use that route quite often. So, but you're right, it's a matter of jurisdiction, really. Most of these side roads that feed onto our main arterial roads are either state or local government roads. But one of the things that our council will consider today is another such relief road, an old road, and hopefully, if we get there, I think that will be one option. But again, as I said before, we mean no harm. The last 6 kilometers into Lagos on the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway were deliberately left for the last, because we knew it was going to be the most difficult to build because of the traffic, the density, and the human activity there. So whilst places like the Second Niger Bridge, Bodo Boni, which are virgin projects, seem to be moving a little quite quickly, building through Abuja, Kano, building through Lagos, Ibadan, building through Ikorodu, Shagamu, or Kano, Maiduguri, that are trafficked every day, have different logistic challenges. A construction site on a highway is a very difficult thing to manage. So you have to cut, you have to divert, you have to build and reopen. So those are the challenges, but we will get there. It's a bitter pill for a better life, really.
Yeah, I wish you gave us a specific date of delivery, but I'd like to go to Lagos-Badagry Expressway now. Sir, I know that that project started under your watch as governor, and it was supposed to have been completed towards the end of your tenure as governor. I stand corrected on that one. But it's been 13 years now, and it's yet to be completed. Give us reasons for the delay. The last I read, you said that 16 billion naira had been released under the tax credit scheme. But, and then, the state government said it was going to be delivered by December. We're closing in on 2022. It's yet to be delivered. And that road has become a nightmare because of, articulated vehicles and tankers and the presence of jetties, in adjoining communities on that road. Talk to us about that, sir.
So I always appeal that when we make these announcements, we understand that people are understandably anxious. So don't just take away the announcements we make about what is happening, but also the specifics to it. So I had the privilege to start that project for a part of it when I was governor. But unfortunately, at the time, not only were resources challenging, we were at the same time trying to build the Lagos Rail, at the same time housing and so many things. But the main reason why we couldn't progress beyond the point where I left it around mile 2 was that we had to relocate water and petroleum pipelines sunk under the road pavement itself. But post that period, of course, you know the economy has changed in many ways, and there are new challenges. The Lagos state government still wants to complete, I think, the first 20-something kilometers up to around Okoko, thereabouts, which was what we undertook then to build. Beyond Okoko to the border remains, we have taken it up now as federal government because it's a federal road, and we left Lagos to deal with that. So when they say they will complete, it's that part up to around Okoko. Our responsibility is to complete it to the border. And you might have heard earlier in your program when I was talking about that road as part of a sub-regional road that goes all the way to Abidjan. So there's a plan also by the heads of states of those 5 countries, Nigeria, Benin, Togo, Ghana, and Cote d'Ivoire, to finance the redevelopment of the highway through the AFDB. So we're working on a design. So the construction that we are undertaking now is being factored into the design that will be financed. But yes, we released 16 billion from the NNPC tax credit. We're looking for additional resources. And you will see the impact of the 16 billion because I was there, I think, earlier in the year. It was impactful. People felt the relief, so we need to mobilize more resources to continue the work that is being done there.
So for Lagos Ibadan and Lagos Badagry, can you give us a definite date of completion for Lagos Ibadan and Lagos Badagry?
Say again, please.
For Lagos Ibadan and Lagos Badagry expressways, can you give us a definite date of completion?
I wish I could, but we expect to complete before end of this term. So some of the headwinds we are facing there, in January, when we return the barriers, we will have to manage traffic. And in that traffic, we will have to get construction material from Ogun. That construction material drives through the same traffic that commuters drive to. On the Ibadan end, the Oyo State government is constructing a drainage channel across the highway. We need that drainage channel to be constructed before we finish the road. Otherwise, it will mean completing the road and then the Oyo State government coming to cut it again. So we need the drain and we need the road. And they must come in a sequence. So these are the challenges of construction that we face. And sometimes just unforeseen challenges, costs just go up, a supply chain is broken somewhere, but with the best of commitment, we intend to finish before end of this term.
I have several people asking about Calabar, its road, Enugu Expressway, but I have to ask you about politics because we have less than 5 minutes to go on this one. So apologies for
all of what we have been talking about is political.
Yeah, but you know, in spite of all of these infrastructure developments, which you highlighted, yeah, quite a number of roads completed and several in the works. You still have people who feel, look, for them, their economy is not any better, and so they don't see any reason why they should vote APC, for instance, for these elections.
Well, you know, at the time we came in this industry, construction industry, they were laying off workers. And a recession was foretold before we came in 2014, by the Minister of Finance. And Nigeria was heading into a recession. It's that recession that we inherited. And so a construction industry that was laying off workers is now employing them in droves. And you need to go to the construction site. We have over 1,000 different contracts, and the people it is employing, from quarry to driving to subcontractors supplying construction materials. So that side of the economy has moved in the right direction.
But we could have avoided a second recession.
A second recession, how do you avoid a global recession that was caused by COVID? Even the countries that were doing very well tanked. And this morning, even on the reports, China is still struggling. China's economy is struggling from the same COVID. It was a COVID-induced recession. It had nothing to do with how this government... What was instructive was that this government recovered from that COVID-induced recession faster than people predicted. So it's work in progress for me, and you win some, you lose some, but I think that the fairest minds, well-meaning and right-thinking people will understand that we applied tongs and hammers to this problem, and opposition is not saying anything that we are doing that they're going to change. I haven't heard one to say, I will change this policy, I will stop infrastructure. Nobody has said that. Nobody has said I will stop school feeding program.
What is the bearing? Because, I mean, school feeding program, by the way, is no longer happening. It is now halted. For whatever reason, we're not very certain, you know, why that is not being implemented anymore. But
yeah, have they said they will stop funding the military? Have they said they will stop? You see, so the question we should have as we go to a choice, what are you going to do differently
if your
that
party
this government
campaigned
is
on,
not doing?
on three major, you know, pillars of, you know, fighting corruption, of, you know, buoying the economy and making sure that security, all Nigerians feel secure. Let's start with the very first one. Can your party say in all confidence that they have, you know, been able to ensure that Nigerians feel more secure, especially looking at some of the headlines, you know, which we're looking at this morning, saying that some people cannot travel home as a result of the insecurity that they could experience in their villages. Can your party say that, oh, we have done the most that we can in the area of security?
So let's start this way. I think that people should know, many know, that in the security industry, the odds against government are extreme. Government has to be right all the time. The criminals have to be right just once. So if you look at the security situation, you will remember that from around 2010 or so, 2011, no public event, not May Day rallies, not Armed Forces Remembrance Day, not Independence events held in this city, Abuja. They were held in the foyer of the State House. That changed. So that was progress. New problems have come. But in the way that we turned that around, I think that we are best suited, we are best experienced to turn this around. And gains are already being made. The challenge is, of course, you're fighting an unconventional war. You're fighting an enemy who wants to die, who is ready. So they're conventional wars. So our law enforcement and security apparatus are responding to the new dynamics of what the opposition
Isn't that what the problem was, responding? There was no prediction. There was no foreseeing what the problem could be. And that's why, you know, we were where we were with the terrorists. And, you know, we now began to experience banditry. You say that the security people, or Nigeria has to be right all of the time. And the people, the
I said the law enforcement apparatus, the odds are unevenly, and that's the benchmark.
It is true. But so what I'm trying to say is that the bandits have been right many times. In many instances, you know, they have been right many times. I mean...
Well, unless you have information that I don't have, as you know, I am not in the management of security, but I draw from my previous experience. And what I do know is that because of those odds, what gets averted doesn't get reported. So it is what slips through the crack that creates a problem. And that's the responsibility of government. And I do not absolve government of that. And I believe that there's always room to be better. But I just think that in terms of sweeping and generalized statements, let's go back to where it started from. Government institutions, government heads couldn't come out to perform public parades simply because of insecurity. That has turned around in this town. There have been, look, I was looking at some surveys recently in some parts of the country in 2015. the headline issue at that time was security. It has changed in that part, but it's now a headline issue in some other parts of the country where it wasn't in 2015. So things are moving. They're dynamic.
Okay. I know we need to go, but let me just put in this one. Let me read it to you. Since you spoke about corruption and some of the issues that were mismanaged at the time. But
I
there's
didn't
this report.
speak about corruption.
No, when you say monies that were taken away
oh, yes,
from
I
government.
did.
So
I did.
that's
I did
corruption. So now there's this 2020 country report on human rights practice, which was released by the U.S. Department of State, and Section 4 of that report focused on Nigeria. And the U.S. described the scale of corruption in Nigeria under the president as massive, widespread, and pervasive. This was in 2020. And we thought that with all the mantra about fighting corruption, this shouldn't be anywhere close.
Well, that's an assessment. And the thing to say that I say is that corruption is a challenge globally. And that is why law enforcement, judicial institutions still remain fighting, changing how business is done, passing new laws, passing new regulations, because nobody has won that battle in any part of the world. Even in places where death sentence is the ultimate punishment. The battle is not totally won.
But people know when progress has been made. Well, people can feel when progress has been made.
Well, I would expect that should be so. But when you see again that the anti-corruption agency, just I think about a week or two ago, I watched the chairman publishing the results of what they have achieved in terms of recoveries. And okay, so I've told you about recoveries. So monies have come in. That's part of progress. Monies that we lost, that were taken out, that caused pain and poverty. This president has brought it back. Okay. It was one of his predecessors that took it out. He has brought it back to work for the people. That's progress. Because I don't know where you're looking at progress from. That's one part. Putting some people to account is also part of progress.
All right, Honourable Minister, I'm afraid we need to go. We didn't even scratch the 133 million Nigerians who are multidimensionally poor, which was an increase from the last time they did that report. But we'll have to invite you again.
I'm not sure we've done a multidimensional poverty report before. I'm not sure. We've done a poverty index report, but this has been
the poverty index report is a subset of this, which it wasn't.
I like it when people talk about this, because the multidimensional aspect of it is larger than the monetary aspect of it.
Yeah,
and what is addressing it is infrastructure.
Okay.
Because it is addressing not just monetary poverty, which is creating jobs, the multidimensional poverty, cost, ease of doing business, quality of life.
Yeah.
For example, across the Niger
now, we'll have to invite you back. So
I'll be glad to come back.
These issues, because there are several people who are asking questions, and unfortunately we couldn't.
I would be glad to come back, and thank you for having me.
So we'll bring you back again, and hope at least that interaction. People just want to know what's happening, so it will be good to have you back. And we appreciate your coming this morning as well. So that is the show today. Whoa, I have to do this on behalf of all of us here today on Sunrise. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.